Chapter 41. Let's celebrate. Faye decided to rename the fundraising effort to save the bakery project success, because she got to keep it. Due to the positive role that the community played, this party was not restricted for volunteers and financial supporters only. It was for all of Clovelly. Faye and Rachel both baked for the party. "You've come a long way, Miss Lady," Arthur said to Rachel, who was busy making and baking cupcakes. "I'm impressed by you. You made all of this happen." Arthur tried to kiss her cheek, and she tried to resist him, but succumbed to his charms and forgave him. Okay, enough of that. We've got a business to run," Faye teased lovingly. Rachel looked Arthur in the eye and gave him a smile and a wink. "Can I lick the spoon?" Arthur asked playfully. "This ain't your grandma's kitchen. Now get." Faye shooed him out. Once Faye and Rachel were alone, they had a conversation. "Rachel, you have been a godsend. I never would have been able to save this place without you. When I made you my assistant manager, I only envisioned you opening and closing when I wasn't available, counting down the cash register and making deposits. Basic, typical assistant manager duties. But most of all, I needed you to become an expert at waiting on customers with kindness and accuracy. You took ownership of the role like a real entrepreneur, and for that I am so grateful. For that reason, I'd like to offer you the position of co-manager with 49% ownership in the business. You are my sole heiress." Rachel was taken by surprise with that offer. She didn't think she deserved it, but even so, quickly moved from making cupcakes to hugging Faye. "I guess that means I can have my lawyer draw up the papers by the end of this week." "Absolutely," Rachel said. "Be patient with my godson, honey. He's a keeper deep down." Rachel smiled, then lowered her head in embarrassment. "Will do. Thanks for the reminder and the vote of confidence. Tell me, how on earth did you come up with all of those ideas for our bakery? Did you look that up somewhere?" "No, it was all me. It's hard to describe, but I don't think I would have had all of those ideas without having worked here." "What do you mean?" "Well, to be honest, I would have thought that Arthur's work would have been enough. 100 wealthy people giving $100 each minimum perhaps. Maybe we also would have gotten some change from well-wishers, and that would be all." Arthur came back into the kitchen. Go on. "I heard my name. Ladies, don't mind me. Even if my ears are burning from you talking about me, I can take it." They all smiled and laughed. Then Beatrice came in. "I've heard of after-parties in those tabloids I get at the grocery, but before parties, that's new to me. Sounds like the before party is in here. I left the volunteers in control of the front store area, in case anyone comes in before we kick things off. We were just talking about Rachel's creativity that was so instrumental to the bakery's success, and to our making a successful transition by stepping into the 21st century. I just made her my co-manager." "Congratulations," Arthur and Beatrice said. "Oh, I almost forgot, honey," Faye said. "There is a penthouse suite above the bakery if you want a larger place. It's really just a studio apartment. If you pay the utilities, it's yours. I'll also have my attorney draw up a lease to that effect with the rest of the paperwork. I told you I adopted you, girl." "Oh my. I don't know what to say," Rachel replied as tears started to well up in her eyes. "Say thank you and accept," Faye insisted. "Thank you," Rachel exclaimed with happiness as tears of joy rolled down her cheeks. They all hugged and then got to work baking the final goods for the party. They were a good team. Everyone had given their best and Clovelly was much richer for it. "Perfect cupcakes, honey," Faye said to Rachel. "I'm super impressed." "Yeah, me too," she replied. "When I first came here, the only thing I was qualified to do was eat baked goods, not make them." They all laughed because it was true. "Now I not only know how to bake a dozen, but also I can whip up enough for the whole town. And they're delicious." "Bite after wonderful bite," Arthur chimed in, focusing his attention on her mouth. "Hey, save some for tonight, grandson. They're irresistible, just like the woman who made them," he said, praising the Rachel he knew now. "She's so very talented, you know?" The kitchen was heating up and people were starting to arrive. The partygoers were numerous and not just from Clovelly. The mayor had suggested making it a block party and closing off the streets to car traffic. People had the chance not only to celebrate the bakery's success, but they could patronize the other businesses in the downtown area who came outdoors and onto the sidewalk for a true taste of Clovelly. "Success breeds success," Faye said to Rachel, pulling her aside. "Just continue to know that without you, none of this would be possible. From the bottom of my heart, thank you." "You provided the foundation, Faye," Rachel stated, slightly embarrassed by her compliments. "You welcomed me and gave me a chance and a job when no one else would have. I was a stranger to town. But you took the risk. You've been a strong manager and a kind, supportive friend. Your consistent encouragement and stability simply brought out the best in me. It was exactly what I needed. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. But you had the vision and carried it out, Faye stated. That changed everything. At that point Arthur returned. Can I steal her away from you for a while? Be my guest, godson. Be good, she said with a smile. I'll do my best, but she'll have to be the judge of that, he replied. Chapter 42. I like you too. There must have been something magical in the air, because it seemed like the chemistry between them was stronger than ever. He kept finding reasons to look at her and her sensuous mouth that he wanted to kiss, and she kept finding reasons to touch him any and everywhere she could get away with. You know, I think you have done your duty tonight at this celebration. Can I take you away from here? Arthur asked, hoping that she said yes and wanting it to be as soon as possible. Sure, what do you have in mind? Well, now that you asked, there's a little cottage on my grandma's property that I am charged with taking care of. It has a solarium filled with green plants. We could grab a bottle of wine and hang out in the solarium. How about it? Will you come with me for a private celebration just for us two? I'd love to spend some unknown time together with you. Okay. Yes, I've wanted to do the same for a while now. Let's go. Would you like a tour of the cottage? He asked, casually reaching for her hand. Nice. Okay, he said, his heartbeat racing in hopes of what might be about to happen. This is the solarium. And this is the kitchen, which we keep fully stocked at all times for long-term visitors. This is the bathroom. And this is the bedroom. They stared into each other's eyes, knowing what both their hearts and bodies wanted, and before thinking, they were kissing each other. Fantasy and reality joined together as they began to satisfy themselves with one another's lips. The longer their kiss endured, the more their passion ignited. From that point neither one of them was speaking with words, just exploring with touch as they kissed each other for real, and as though for the first time for what felt like forever yet not enough time. He scooped her up in his arms and carried her to the bed. It was as though he was the first man on earth and she was the first woman. He explored her body as he carefully removed each item of clothing slowly and deliberately from her body. He kissed her all over each place where her clothes had previously been. Is this okay? Am I moving too fast? He was breathing hard and trying to take his time with her. Yes, and it's wonderful. You are so beautiful. Then he took off his clothes and climbed into the bed with her. He made love to her that night for the first time, the second time, and the third. After that, he passed out and slept soundly, holding Rachel in his arms as she rested on his bare chest and found solace in the constant rhythm of his heartbeat. For Rachel that day had been like Christmas, her birthday and Valentine's Day, all wrapped up in one. Never had she been with such a tender, generous or skilled lover. Regretfully, she would have to descend from heaven with him in order to search for something to eat. She was going on donuts, coffee and cupcake batter. She was beyond hungry. She was starving. She decided to explore the kitchen. Just as he said, it was fully stocked. She made them an omelet with 3 brown, cage-free eggs, locally sourced goat cheese, sun-dried tomatoes packed in olive oil, bacon and pitted Kalamata olives. She found some bananas, berries and frozen vanilla yogurt and made him a smoothie. It was 4 a.m., too late for dinner and too early for breakfast. But a savory dish and some crushed, sweet fruit might do the trick and give him a much-needed boost of energy after the evening's activities. She took it to him in the bedroom on a bamboo tray that she found on top of the fridge. He had just started waking up and feeling around, noticing she was no longer there, when she entered with his breakfast in bed. He sat up and she set the tray on his lap. Surely you don't expect me to eat all of this on my own, while you watch me devour this amazing-looking meal, do you? Well, I was kinda hoping you might share. She opened his cloth napkin and showed him 2 forks, one for him and one for her. In my book, that's the kind of premeditated planning that I like and appreciate. They feasted together, talking, laughing, and feeding each other. They reminisced about their initial hatred of each other. When they finished, Arthur put the tray to the side and showed her his gratitude for taking care of his appetite for food by taking care of her appetite for their love-making. I'm not normally like this. So desirous for sex, Rachel apologized. There is no need for an apology. All that matters is that you are that way for me, he said, then kissed her for the umpteenth time. I think I have fallen in love with you. And trust me, I'm not normally so captivated. But then again, we didn't know each other for me to be able to soberly say that to you. I've never met anyone like you, Rachel. I do love you. I love you too, Arthur. I don't want our passion for each other to ever end. It was a lover's paradise. Food and sex. Sex and food. Luckily Rachel was on the late afternoon shift at the bakery. When she got up to go to her rented room for a shower and a change of clothes, Arthur pulled her close for one more time. Call out, Arthur begged sheepishly. You have perfect attendance so far, right? No. I can't. Then they'll know something is going on. I'm one of the co-managers. I have to live up to my responsibilities. And I can barely walk right now as it is. I know. I understand, he smiled. And I love you for it. It was just a shot. Don't forget about your solarium plant duties. And restock the fridge. That was genius. You should pick me up tonight a little after 9. I'm closing. We haven't been together for 24 hours yet and already you're giving me a honey-do list? He teased her lovingly. She left him behind, but carried the glow of their own project's success for the rest of the day. Chapter 43. Together at last. Okay, Faye, I'm going to close up now. My boyfriend is coming to pick me up, Rachel announced. Oh, okay. Your what? My boyfriend, Arthur, the Oxford-educated attorney, Beatrice's grandson. You know. Are you kidding me? No. I'm just being honest, Rachel replied, only knowing how close the comment was to her actual truth. She was being honest this time, and it was a rarity that being in a relationship was causing her to do. Well, honey, that's simply fantastic news. That explains the glow and the shift-long smile. All sorts of good things have been happening this week, haven't they? Yes, they have, Rachel enthusiastically agreed. They closed down the store for the night, and just as Rachel was about to lock the front door and put the alarm on, Arthur showed up with an equally big smile. He's here, Faye, Rachel beamed. Hello, godson. I just heard the excellent news. You two deserve to be happy, and what better way than to be coupled with each other? Thanks, Faye. It couldn't happen to two finer folks. Now don't keep her up too late, Faye said with a wink. So what would you like to do on our second night of official couplehood? Coupling? Coupledom? Asked Rachel, unsure of the vocabulary they would choose to define their very new romantic relationship. They both appeared content with the titles of boyfriend and girlfriend for the present, at least. Well, I know of one thing, but I don't want to wear you out, he said with a grin. How about you? Any suggestions or ideas? Not one. I think that Project Donut swallowed my short-term creativity, she mused as they motored along. Well, thank goodness there's Project Success. Maybe there's a different part of your brain that this one will use and still leave you with some left over, he jokingly suggested. Funny, Mr. Funnyman, so you've got jokes, huh? He laughed. While they sat at the stoplight, he stole a kiss from her. Now that's much better. What do you want me to call you? He asked her, sweetheart, baby, sugar, love, or something of your own creation. Rachel is fine. No, it has to be one of those cloyingly sweet pet names that make you supremely disgusted when you hear it, knowing that they're getting sex on the regular and you're not. Oh, I see. The funny man has an axe to grind, she said, flashing him her beautiful smile. Make up your mind by the time we get to the next stoplight or You'll what? She asked, calling his bluff. I'll have to kiss it out of you. Seriously? Absolutely. So basically I win either way? Yeah. He realized, happier than he'd been for longer than he could remember. What should I call you? The name Arthur does not truncate easily like some other male names might. Good point and good question. How about Artie? I'd like to think I know a good deal about you, although not everything. Trust me when I say this from a position of love and respect. And Artie, you're not. Yeah, I kinda thought you would say that. Believe me, I've been trying to get that to catch on for years without success. Artie is an internationally known, award-winning architect, speaks 7 languages fluently and climbs Mount Everest for a regular workout. Perhaps you're right. If not Artie, then what? Okay, I've got one for you. Oops, wait, we're at a light, she said, pausing and positioning for a kiss. Now that's better. How about Love Kiss? Since you love to kiss, I think it suits you perfectly. All right, let me see. Love Kiss. Could you pick me up tonight? Love Kiss. I thought we talked about that already. Love Kiss. That was so thoughtful. Love Kiss. Thank you for letting me use your platinum credit card. Yep, it works for me. Any thoughts on one for yourself? I know this is going to sound like I am elevating myself on the highest possible pedestal, but I am rather partial to being called Princess. Yes, Princess Rachel. Sounds good. Case closed. Case closed? You do realize you are in the United Kingdom and it is always possible that you could be sharing that title with the real deal, right? Choose another. Arg. Okay. I did like it when you called me Miss Lady. You think very, very well of yourself, don't you? I don't think I have ever been with any girl with a higher or healthier sense of self-esteem. Okay, but only if you are absolutely certain. Miss Lady it is. And look, just in time to seal the deal with a kiss, we are approaching yet another stoplight. You definitely got game, love kiss, she said, turning her face toward him for a kiss. Magnificent. I love it already. From that day forward, nothing would be the same again. Arthur and Rachel grew closer together and more in love. After a fruitless search for a house they could afford in Clovelly Parish, Arthur asked his grandma if they could take up residence in the cottage until he got his bar exam results in the mail. Those exam scores, pass or fail, would determine what came next for them together. One thing that did not change, however, was that they were blissfully happy all the time. This time it was completely real and not for show. They had the respect of the community and the love and support of their friends and Arthur's family of one Beatrice, at least for the most part. Beatrice remained cordial, but there was something that was not right for her that she was not sharing. Arthur wondered if it was a health matter. Rachel wondered if Beatrice felt cut out of the loop now that they were a couple. Before, it was the three of them or one of them with Beatrice enjoying unknown quality time. Now she was home alone in an empty nest, even if they were only a few feet away from her main house. Faye thought Beatrice might miss all of the bakery salvation excitement that kept her connected, gave her purpose, and made her feel needed. These were the thoughts of her friends, who were all partially correct. Only one other person knew about the secret lie of omission that she was keeping. She had taken, read, and kept Rachel's letter to her father. She could confront the person with what she knew or she could bury it with her, and none would be the wiser. But, despite what she had done first, starting with taking the letter, Beatrice did not like to lie in any way. She knew what she had to do. She was aware that after she confronted the other person involved, she would rock the foundation of her house of cards, and risk losing that relationship forever. That might be uncomfortable for a short while, but after carefully thinking about it, she decided to do the right thing for the long term and let the cards come crashing down, with the chips falling where. Chapter 44. Too much, too late. Rachel's life was great. She had a job promotion and a new boyfriend. It had been a long time since any little thing would send her running away with tears in her eyes, or trying to be brave on the outside when inside she was terrified. She had conquered a new land, job, and people. She was even content to love her father from a distance and read about not be a part of Kurt's life in the tabloids with a different group of women each week. This new phase of living in Clovelly for her was perfect, peaceful, and hers to enjoy without interruption and with no reason, to her recollection, to end. For her, she was living the good life. Beatrice walked into the bakery. "Hello, dear," she said, kissing Rachel on the cheek as she came forward to greet her. "You are the very person I wanted to see today." "Really?" "Yes. I wanted to talk with you about a private matter. Can you see if Faye can cover things for a few minutes while we sit outside in the cafe section?" "Sure. That should be no problem." While Rachel confirmed, Beatrice made her way to the sidewalk cafe-covered seating area. One of the new ideas that Rachel had implemented to make the bakery look more continental. "Okay, Beatrice. You have my full attention. What did you want to talk to me about?" Beatrice was noticeably nervous. She crossed and uncrossed her legs under the table in a vain attempt to get comfortable before she got to the heart of the matter. "It's about something of yours that I found." "Goodness, I am so nervous about this." "Well, I guess the best way is just to say it. I found your letter on your desk. The letter that you wrote to your father about not returning to New York and choosing to stay in Clovelly." "What?" Rachel shrieked so loudly, bringing several cars on the road to a full stop. "I am shocked and disappointed. Oh my God. Oh my God. How dare you? So not only did you find it, but you read it too." "Yes. I'm sorry to say it, but yes, I did read it." Rachel lowered her head, then took a deep breath. The hour of reckoning she had dreaded for so long had come. In the midst of all of her happiness and success, this one small thing with a huge impact was facing her right now. "Okay. I didn't know that you came into the room I rented when I wasn't there and looked at my private things. Why did you take it? How could you read it? When were you going to tell me about it? What were you thinking when you saw me frantically searching for it?" A million thoughts raced through her head. "Dear, I'm sorry. I don't know why I opened it or why I even thought it was okay to be up there nosing around in the first place. But now that I read it, I'm glad I did. For Arthur's sake." "Arthur's sake? You looked at my private thoughts and kept it to yourself for weeks, and now you're coming forward. Because of your grandson?" "Sadly, yes. I am. Beatrice, I don't know what you must be thinking, but I wrote that note when I was experiencing my own moment of truth. It was a snapshot in time. Nothing more. I just did not want him to worry." "And by him you mean your multi-billion-dollar father?" Is that why you left the tabloid lying around? Were you trying to find out what kind of lies there were about me? Well, those articles might have reported lies about you, but you based your entire relationship with all of us on lies ever since the beginning of your stay in Clovelly. Your omissions about who you were and where you came from were all lies. How can he or any of us trust you again? Choosing to keep a part of my life private was my private business for my own personal reasons. I don't recall listing information about my father as a prerequisite for renting the room to an adult woman. How could you? Rachel cried out in a mixture of anger and pain. How could you? Beatrice responded, feeling Rachel's separation from her over all of this exactly as she thought she would. I had to protect my grandson. He trusts and loves you. I just want you to come clean and tell him yourself in your way. Or else. Or else what? Or else I'll present him with the letter and let him draw his own conclusions. You took my private documents and now you are issuing me an ultimatum. You based everything you told us on lies. Beatrice reminded Rachel, sounding upset and hurt. Based on my desire to keep my past my business. There's a difference. I'd be curious to know if Arthur feels that way or sees things similarly. The woman he loves has been omitting a significant part of her background. He was already suspicious of you, but now, with this, it will push him over the edge in anger. You need to make this right. I need to make it right? What about you? You took it from me. Why didn't you just tell him yourself or give him the letter? I care for you, Rachel. And I wanted you to have the opportunity to tell him yourself. But I love my grandson. And I will not sit idly by and have you build an entire relationship and a future based on lies, young lady. Well, there you have it. Yes, I could have given it to him, leaving you out of the picture. But I feel that you need to be upfront with him before things get any more serious. She continued after allowing a brief pause for Rachel to process everything she just heard. Arthur tells me you two are looking for a house together. What if you got married and had children, then he found out years later? That would destroy him even more. I owe my allegiance to him as my blood. You owe him the truth before it's too late. Heed my warning, Rachel. After that, Beatrice and Rachel stood up and went their separate ways, with Beatrice heading home and Rachel returning to work, wishing she had the past to do over again. Telling Arthur would be the open and honest way in the spirit of full disclosure, but it would never make things right. He would probably never be able to see her the same way again, let alone trust her. And a future together with him in addition to her desire to stay in Clovelly would be out of the question. Telling the full truth now was already too late. She reluctantly went back inside, bracing for the worst that was sure to come from him no matter how she tried to tell him. She realized that it was getting harder and harder to hide from who she was before the lies. It was a challenge to keep the lies and the truth that she revealed separate and straight. By taking, reading, and keeping the letter, Beatrice took away Rachel's choice. Her initial reasons for lying seemed immaterial now. That was certainly how Arthur would probably see it. Blood was thicker than water in this case. She could only imagine the negative fallout with him that would happen after the full truth about herself was revealed. Chapter 45 Found. All of the pieces were coming together, just not the way Rachel hoped. Just as she was starting to collect her thoughts after her conversation with Beatrice, she saw a limousine pull up in front of the bakery, to the attention of the people both inside and out of the bakery. For those in the parish who saw it, the vehicle was a huge curiosity. For Rachel it was doomsday. Within seconds of parking, the man who exited the limousine was no stranger. It was her father. He entered the bakery and commented, quaintly provincial, under his breath with a tone of disdain. Then his eyes located his daughter. There was no exchange of emotion or even a hug. She knew why he was there, and she also knew that her life in Clovelly was over. Rachel, he addressed her. Father, she replied. The car is waiting. As upset as she was, she had no more words, too overcome with fear and embarrassment. Although she was a young woman, being in the intimidating presence of her father made her feel like a 7-year-old who had misbehaved and was nervously awaiting her punishment. Faye heard the commotion and came to the front. May I help you, sir? She said, a little afraid of him herself, seeing him in the presence of his 6'4" burly chauffeur and bodyguard. No, I doubt that you can. I'm taken care of, thanks. I'm here to collect my daughter. As though Rachel was an inanimate series of disorderly pieces, more to be owned and objectified than understood. Rachel, do you know this gentleman? Faye inquired, also overcome by his powerful presence, the likes of which she had never experienced before. Rachel, dutiful daughter that she was, nodded, then got her purse and left the bakery without even a goodbye, taking her place in the limousine. Thank you and good day, her father said and left, closing the door to the Clovelly bakery, with all that it meant, setting off the jingle bells on the door behind him. Once both were seated in the car, her father addressed her as though nothing had happened and they had never been apart. If you have any personal effects that you would like to gather, kindly supply the driver with the address for your humble abode, he suggested, more as an acknowledgement of his wanting his daughter to actively participate in putting the entire experience behind her. He already knew her address from his private security sources, and could have easily found it without her help. We'll take the jet back to London this afternoon and then leave Heathrow the first thing in the morning, he droned on. I have meetings this evening to tie up some of my own loose ends in the UK. You'll stay at the London penthouse with the driver outside your door, should you want anything. He'll call for it and have it delivered. Her father continued to talk at her. Remember, there's a full spa in the building, so that you can pull yourself together before we leave. Kurt will meet us at JFK. The wedding is set for Saturday and will be a small affair. All 400 of my closest business associates will be there to see you tie the knot and recognize and celebrate the merger. We expect your full cooperation. Neither his tone or his dense yet informative message left any room for discussion, so she sat there and took it, the words washing over her like hot soap and wax over a car in a car wash, where it was only able to emerge and escape after the entire messy process was finished. Riding through town and stopping at the lights that mark sites of memories alone and with Arthur was painful medicine. There had to be some other way to break free of her family. Obviously a continental shift from North America to Europe was not drastic enough. Finding her was probably facilitated due to the financial contribution she made to the bakery. Even though her time there was nearing end, she would always have fond memories of the parish as her mom had experienced many years before her. They pulled up to the cottage. The chauffeur helped Rachel out of the car, then accompanied her every step of the way. Inside she wanted to bolt and run again, like she had the first time she was scheduled to marry Kurt. But her father had gotten wiser, and the man that she thought was there for his protection was truly there to keep her on a short leash before, until, and throughout the marriage ceremony. If she never uttered another word, she doubted anyone in her father's camp would notice the difference. But she had a few more words to say, and these were for Arthur's ears only. This was probably not how Beatrice imagined it, but the silent expectation with her father allowing her to make this stop to gather personal effects was more about Rachel's peace of mind that might make her more amenable to embrace her duties to her family than any belonging she might have wanted to take from her time with her friends. Stopping at the cottage itself was especially about tying up her loose ends with the significant people from her adventure, so that she could fully and completely perform her new role in the family, and produce an heir without any hesitation. Kurt, however, was not required to do the same, although he had significantly more romantic attachments in terms of mistresses across all of the continents and at least one in each Big Apple borough of the city that never sleeps. She vacillated between hoping Arthur was at home and hoping he wasn't. If he wasn't, maybe she could send a letter that he could read over and over again explaining everything. At different stages of his grieving the loss of the relationship, he might eventually come to clarity about the lies, her father, and his billions, with all the power and obligations that amount of money brings. But how could she get the letter mailed or any other form of communication sent with a bodyguard on her 24/7 to make sure she did not escape going through the wedding ceremony this time? Once she was married it would be too late. True, she'd have access to her father's billions, but to what avail if she no longer had access to Arthur? Chapter 46. I don't know you. Hey, you're home early. I thought you wanted me to pick you up? What's the deal with the big black limo outside? My car is not good enough for you anymore, Miss Lady, Arthur asked from their bedroom, where he had laid his study materials across their bed, and was working on making outlines for different subjects that would be on the bar exams. Rachel was shaking. There. Seriously, what's wrong? Arthur persisted. What the? Who is that man in our home? Rachel, talk to me, he said, shaking her, momentarily forgetting the presence of the large man in their living room and focusing all of his attention on her. Tell me what's going on. Arthur, she said, breathing harder and faster once she spoke his name. My father is a billionaire. He's outside in the car. The man in here is his driver and bodyguard. He has come for me to return to the States and go through with an arranged marriage for business reasons. I'm sorry I had to hurt you this way. I am leaving immediately. What? Arthur blinked, trying to make sense of what he had just heard. I wanted to try to make it right before I went away and promised your grandma that I would tell you the whole truth. I can understand if you hate me right now. You can understand if I hate you right now? No, I don't think you can understand one iota of what I am going through right now. You have no idea about my feelings, you ice queen. If you did, you would not have lied to me. His feelings for her suddenly changed from love and fear of losing her to anger and disappointment. Processing beyond the twin emotions of shock and surprise, He somehow found the strength to continue questioning her. Becoming more and more aware with each rhetorical question, he asked her that the foundation of their relationship was built on her falsification and quickly slipping away. He probed further in vain to get a better sense of the depth of Rachel's betrayal. Have you been lying all the time? About us or loving me? How stupid of me. How can I trust or believe anything you say from here on out? You lied. You lied to me. I'm done with you. Get your stuff and get out. I don't even know you. Go back to where you came from and leave me the hill alone. He paced nervously back and forth for a while, overcome with profound disappointment, then angrily opened drawers in the bureau and the door to the walk-in bedroom closet and began tossing all of her clothes and underwear at her, leaving her stuff to hit the floor. She started trying to pick it up, but failed in her efforts to keep up with him. A man possessed with hurt and upset over being duped by the woman he loved. Miss Rachel, do you need any help? The bodyguard called after her. Rachel was silent and worn down after telling Arthur the whole truth. The atmosphere was tense. Aware that the bodyguard was letting her know he was still there for her and she was running out of time, she gave up trying to take her things acquired in Clovelly, and only recently moved to the cottage she and Arthur shared. She chose to just leave after uttering 2 last words to him. I'm sorry. She left Arthur sitting on the paper and clothes-covered bed, his head buried in his hands, crying. A broken man in an unimaginable situation. He had just started to get vulnerable enough to trust anyone in a relationship context. Now he felt betrayed and used. She wanted closure and she got it. She thought about reaching out to hug him one last time, but knew he probably would have rejected her and pushed her away, or maybe even worse. Instead, she turned and left him to begin to purge himself of his pain. Rachel realized that she had it all and lost it twice. One time was stateside and another was in the UK. She had access to wealth in America, but in Clovelly, she discovered her soul's potential. With her father she had money and position. With Arthur, however, she had love. Clovelly would become a bittersweet experience, and who knows, maybe in a few years that memory might become a pleasant afterthought. An American girl's premarital last adventure, before settling down to stable, lifelong married life in the world of the privileged and super rich. When she had her children someday, she would share with them her fondest memories of Clovelly as her mother had done with her. She would redact the private pieces of her close relationships that she left behind, but would always keep close to her heart. As raw and as fresh as the wound was now, she could not imagine ever being able to edit out her longing for what might have been with Arthur. No matter how he was reacting right now, she wished she could hold him one last time and show him her feelings for him were never counterfeit, even when they were a fake couple. Heartbreak did not begin to describe it as she left the cottage for the last time and climbed into the limo. She put on a pair of sunglasses on an overcast day, closed her eyes, and slipped away into depression as she and her father rode off in silence. She knew enough to know that she had neither the permission or the privacy to shed a single tear in front of her father. The quieter he was, the more afraid she became inside. In the end, she did not have to worry about his retribution for her having left. He was totally lost in his work without a concern for how she might be feeling. It was enough for him that she was in the car right now, just another task to check off as complete on his daily to-do list. Chapter 47, Change of Heart. Once they were back stateside at her father's mansion in New York, she was scheduled for a meeting with him. How do we stand for going forward with the marriage to the teddy bear king? I will marry Kurt, father. Good. You are dismissed. She had stayed awake on the plane back to the States, trying to figure out if there was any way around it. If only she had been brave enough to stay in Clovelly, and not succumb to her father's wishes. She realized that when it came to dealing with him, God forbid, confronting him or responding to his commands with the word no, she was a polite people-pleaser and a pawn. She did not have the luxury to grieve the loss of relationship, job, home and community. The meeting with her father reinforced that things were moving forward as planned, and any attempts to change or escape the plan would be frowned upon. Once she left her father, she returned to the private rooms in the West Wing that were her apartment within her father's mansion. His personal secretary followed her back and handed her a folder with the agenda of events and some other documents. For the next couple of days up to and through the wedding ceremony, a detailed itinerary was on the left side. A copy of the prenuptial agreement and the terms of the merger were on the right side. Stickers marked everywhere that she needed to sign and return as soon as possible, and the secretary stood by eagerly with a pen, facilitating getting her to sign on the spot once she gave it all a cursory review and initialed the terms of the contract. She was trapped. Nothing was left to chance, not even the requirement of natural or in vitro fertilization creation of an heir within the first year of marriage. These things were strictly pro forma. They did not need to consult her for her opinion, really. It served more as a courtesy and as a polite consideration. The documents also let her know where she was expected to be, what she was to be doing, and when she was expected. Buried within the agenda, however, was the meta-message that running away a second time would not be tolerated. Most of what she would be doing involved her looks and her consistent presence as a new trophy wife everyone was excited to see after months of tabloids chronicling Kurt's freewheeling spirit, while still a bachelor, but also a fiancé. Back in Clovelly, Arthur had a change of heart and tried to reach out to Rachel to ask her forgiveness. He had read a story in the newspaper announcing that Rachel was getting married in New York. He tried to send her email messages the only way he knew of to contact her, but her father's secretary was tasked with monitoring Rachel's email messages, intercepting, blocking, reporting spam, and destroying them by emptying them daily from the trash. Arthur would not give up so easily and offered a new email to her with a new address each day, hoping that someday he would be able to get through. The New York bar exam was in 3 days, but he planned to arrive early and use his stellar research skills to locate and, armed with the realization that he could lose her to a marriage of convenience for financial reasons, he decided to crash the wedding that the entire world was watching. If he failed, it would mark one of the biggest mergers in American history, but leave a huge hole in his heart for the rest of his life. They were soon in the same city but felt a world apart. While Rachel remained the princess in the palace being groomed to become Kurt's wife, her thoughts wandered to her time in Clovelly, the community of friends, her job, but especially her continued strong feelings for Arthur. Before, when she was supposed to marry Kurt, it would have been easier. Now that she had experienced romance and true love with Arthur, it was hard for her to even think of making marriage vows to another man she had no feelings for other than pure dislike of his character. Kurt and Arthur were exact opposites. Kurt, with his globe-trotting womanizing, clearly mocked the sanctity of marriage as a sacrament, did not see it as a lasting institution, given his many divorces, did not respect women, and agreed to it only for business reasons. Arthur, on the other hand, looked forward to the day when he decided to make a lovely girl his wife. Arthur remembered that he had a friend from Oxford in New York City, who worked as a photographer for the society page of one of the more reputable newspapers in the city. He planned to plead his case before her and beg her to be her +1 and photographer's assistant so that he could gain entry to the wedding before it was too late. He got her number from the Alumni Association and contacted her. "Michelle? How are you? Arthur here. Look, I need a huge favor." "Hello. What can I do for you?" "I need to gain entrance to that big society wedding on Saturday." "You want to go to the reception? That list has been top secret and is very hard to break. Big wig business types, you know." "That might be nice, but it's not necessary. I'd like to attend the ceremony." She was confused, but demanded to hear his plan before she would agree to put her reputation and her job on the line before that. He wanted to attend wedding, object to the couple getting married, then scoop Rachel up and off to his hotel room for the weekend on the Saturday when she was supposed to be wed. Wait, didn't she run away the first time they were supposed to get married? "I'm sorry to admit it, but I'm as susceptible to the supermarket tabloids as the average person." "Yes, but I'm hoping that she still has it in her not to go through with it this time either." "Okay, that must be another reason that the security will be so tight. It plans to be an exciting show of CEOs from most of the Fortune 500 businesses, and their ladies from the society pages too. Everybody who's anybody will be there. Almost all of the journalists and paparazzi want access to the reception, not the ceremony. So sure, I'll let you come along." If he succeeded, Arthur and Rachel would have to keep a low profile while he sat for the bar the next week. Then she would return with him to Clovelly after the interest in her and her whereabouts had died down a bit. It was an ambitious prospect and a daunting task, but with a little luck it just might work. It was all a matter of perfectly aligned timing. Meanwhile, he continued to change and send her email begging her forgiveness and asking for a second chance. Chapter 48: Preparations. The big day had finally arrived. Even though the ceremony would start early that afternoon, Rachel had been up since the crack of dawn getting ready. Her father had set up an on-site spa to pamper her like royalty. Unlike a lot of women, she did not spend hours at the salon for hair or nails or getting a massage, waxing, or facial. She was low maintenance. Her father, however, decided that it was what his daughter deserved to feel special, and would have to get used to as a merger missus. He understood and lived by the principle that the better the wife looked, the more that reflected the success of the husband. She had made peace with the fact that she was marrying for money and not love. Marriage for love was a recent invention anyway. Maybe her father knew best. Maybe Kurt would change and settle down. She put on her satin robe and began to get dressed. After she put on her favorite pair of pajamas that her late mother had given her, she heard a knock at the door. She was surprised because she couldn't think of anyone she was expecting at that hour. "Hello. Massage time." "Hello," she said, welcoming the masseuse. She set up the table, lit some incense and candles, and put on some music from her playlist. "You can take your robe off now and be comfortable," the masseuse said sweetly with a smile. "You the special girl today. So good. So fun. Enjoy." With that she stopped talking for a while and began to encourage the knots out of Rachel's back, shoulders, and neck while the flute played, and the scents and lighting had their intended relaxing effect. "You so beautiful girl. Why sad? You special today." The woman spoke with a strong accent. Although this woman was a complete stranger to her and clearly a foreigner, Rachel found herself opening up as the woman administered massage therapy. She was not sure how much the masseuse could understand, but talking during the massage was like making a good confession. Excellent for the soul. "Oh, sad you cannot do. No love you cannot do. Oh no." This was the sum of the woman's response to Rachel's monologue of premarital discontent. When she was finished and packed up all of her things, she set them down and took Rachel by the hand, leading her to the mirror at the vanity wrapped in a towel. "See, you beautiful girl. You cannot do. This man no good. No good for you. We same." Rachel felt her press something that was slightly sharp in her hand. Rachel looked at the woman's reflection in the mirror, and staring back at her was her late mother's face. When she transferred her eyes from the reflection in the mirror to where the woman was standing next to her, she was surprised that the masseuse and her paraphernalia were gone. Was it a dream? Was it her late mother trying to connect with and warn her? She was not sure, but what was once resolved in her mind but not her heart, began to unravel in her mind and go against her heart's delight. She set the object the masseuse gave her on the vanity. The rest of the morning was more normal and less paranormal. She took a bath and got her nails done. Her beautician came and styled her hair. After that a makeup artist made up her face. Rachel decided to dress herself. She had everything any bride needed on a superficial level, down to a father to walk her down the aisle. The jewels she wore on her ears, neck, fingers and wrists were a combination of the old, the new, the borrowed, and the blue. She did fine with dressing alone until it came time for the train to her wedding dress. Luckily, the wedding planner stopped by to see if Rachel needed anything. Before opening the door, she took the masseuse's little object and tucked it into her cleavage, since her wedding gown had no pockets. After helping Rachel out, the wedding planner reminded her how close it was until time for the ceremony. 10 minutes, Mississippi. The bride was fully dressed and ready to walk down the aisle when her father knocked on her door for the last time as a single young lady. He would give her away, and after the magical moment when she went from Miss to Mrs., he would become the richest man in North America. Downstairs everything was ready to go. The wedding planner straightened and lifted the various parts of Rachel's wedding gown. Then cued the organist. As she walked down the aisle, she felt like it sounded more like a funeral dirge than a wedding march. Then she saw it. First a wink, then a smile, and finishing with a lingering glance up and down at one of her bridesmaids by her bridegroom. Her father released Rachel's arm. Right when she was supposed to take Kurt's arm, she withdrew from following through and said, "Kurt, how could you? And on our wedding day? In the church? Good riddance." At that point Rachel reached into her cleavage and pulled out the masseuse's gift, a very small pair of scissors. Instantly, Rachel cut the train from the dress, then turned around and walked out of the chapel, prepared to walk away from her father's billions for the second and final time. Arthur did not even have to object to the marriage as he intended, but he did give her some lead time by tripping 2 bodyguards, so they would be delayed in catching up to her. Rachel ended the sham before it had a chance to begin and lead to a death do us part, that she would wish for every day of her married life to that playboy. In the end, Arthur decided against making himself known to Rachel in the end. He was unsure if she would want to be with any man after such a pious poor showing of 2 significant ones in 2 different places. Rachel grabbed her passport, driver's license, credit cards, her keys, a leather jacket and some cash. Learning from the masseuse, she looked in the mirror and said to herself, "Rachel girl, you deserve much better. Now go back and get him." She changed into a pair of sneakers from heels, but did not change out of the wrecked dress, which she now wore as a badge of honor. She hopped on her motorcycle, then put on her helmet and sped off to JFK International Airport. Chapter 49. Welcome home. The first person she wanted to see was Arthur, but she wasn't sure if he would want to see her. She decided to ease back into Clevelly first. That meant renewing the friendship, then presenting the person with a token of her affection. So of course she stopped at the bakery immediately after her long flight. Her mascara had run down her cheeks, her hair was a mess, and she was still in her $1 million wedding dress, which was now torn and soiled. Faye ran up to her and hugged her long and hard for several minutes. Oh honey, my dear sweet girl is back. We all missed you terribly. Tell me you're here to stay. I'm here to stay, if you'll have me back as your co-manager? Of course. It's not easy to fill your shoes, honey. The offer also still stands for the above shop studio apartment. Yeah, I'll have to figure out where I'll live. She reached in her inner jacket pocket, found some rolled documents with a red ribbon tied around them like an old scroll. What's this? Faye asked. Open it up and see. Faye unrolled the scroll of papers. One was the deed to the land that the bakery sat on. The second was a document saying she did not have to pay rent on the bakery since she now owned the entire building, including the apartment. Rachel had used her time at her father's mansion before the wedding to use her access to his money while she had it. Faye rushed over and hugged Rachel again. Is this for real, Rachel, honey? Yes, absolutely. I want you to be able to focus on running and expanding the bakery as little or as much as you want. If you need to lean on me sometimes, that's fine too. It's a win-win for me because on top of co-manager, by paying off the cost of the building and the land, I became a new investor also. Oh honey, thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Just tell me when you want me back? Rachel inquired, well aware that she would no longer have access to wealth and would have to work for a living. How about tomorrow to close? Or is that too soon for you? Tomorrow sounds just right. Okay, Faye. See you then. I still have some more stops to make. We'll catch up then. Sounds good. Great to have you back. Several of the townspeople saw her and welcomed her back with open arms. They realized what a huge contribution she had made to Clovelly. She dropped off her things at the bed and breakfast, not presuming that either Arthur or Beatrice would want her to come back to live with them. She borrowed a bicycle and headed to see Beatrice. Rachel decided that she would take the first step and apologize to her. Beatrice threw open the door and held her close and tight. My dear sweet precious girl. You came back. You came back. Yes, Beatrice. I did. I told him you would return. I told him, she said excitedly, shedding tears of joy. Arthur? Yes. He was angry initially, but after less than a day he wanted you back. Really? She said, unable to contain her excitement at this news. Truly. I know you and I also exchanged some strong words. Yes, Beatrice, and I ask you to forgive me. You're forgiven, Rachel. I just wanted you two to be able to move forward on solid ground. But it was not my place and I was out of line by sticking my nose in your business as a couple and nosing around your room here. They hugged again. Beatrice had made zucchini chocolate chip bread, and they ate together at her table after what seemed like an eternity. Beatrice, tell me something, please. Why is everyone smiling at me? I know people in Clovelly are friendly, but now everyone stops and says hello like we're old acquaintances and I'm not just another American tourist. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. It's because of this article that made our parish newspaper last week when you left. It's a news article on you by the town photojournalist who snapped a picture of you the evening before the miracle occurred that enabled Faye to keep the bakery up and running. It starts at the front of the lifestyle section and it continues a full page inside. All about you. Very thorough and very complimentary. All of Clovelly got to know you a little better and you became less of a tourist, but more of a champion who made all of us feel like winners. A creative community advocate and organizer. You saved it for me? Yes, dear. I didn't know how I'd ever get it to you, but I prayed and knew that Arthur would move heaven and earth to find you and bring you back. Where is he now? At the library studying, I imagine? No. He's gone. Gone. To New York to find you, then take that state's the bar exam. Since you left, he has been sending daily messages to your email, the only way he knew to contact you. Your father must have erased them all. I guess these probably never got to you, huh? No. I had no idea. He was going to crash the wedding ceremony and object to the marriage. So he pursued me? Yes. You are, above all else, a good woman and he realized he was better with you than without you. But I'll let him explain all of that to you. I can't believe it. He came to the city for me on the eve of his test and was there at the same time I was. Who knows? He might have even been in the congregation when I left Kurt at the altar for him to flirt with as many bridesmaids as he wanted. When will he be back? The exam is over on Wednesday afternoon. He said if he wasn't successful with you or the bar, he'd just have to come back to Clovelly and try to get past his dreams for you both and try to move forward with a grave reality that, unfortunately, did not have you in it. Oh, her voice dropping to a mere whisper. Don't worry, dear. He should be back by supper time on Thursday. Great. I'll hope for the best outcome. I have something I'd like to give you. Oh my, you didn't have to get me anything. It's just a token. Here, open it up. It was a small, heavy rectangular box. She shook it, then opened it. Inside of the box were 100 cream-colored, quality paper stock business cards with her name, phone number and email address with the title, Extraordinary Gardener in embossed black ink. I had them made up here before I left. My departure was so sudden. And I left on bad terms with you. I had already paid for them, but I never had the chance to pick them up. I couldn't come here empty-handed. I remembered them on the bike ride here. You dear sweet girl. Now there's just one more piece to the puzzle to solve. Chapter 50. Happily Ever After. Rachel decided to work a double shift on the day Arthur was due back in Clovelly after the test. She did not want it to seem like she was sitting around pining for him. She did not want it to seem like she didn't care one way or the other either. Plus, working in the bakery all day would keep her mind occupied. What Rachel did not know, but Faye and Beatrice did, was that Arthur had taken an earlier flight and was going to surprise her. It's been pretty slow today, Faye. Sorry more people weren't around to taste your amazing zucchini chocolate chip bread, Beatrice. I think I'll get a head start on the inventory. Those items aren't going to count themselves, you know. She politely excused herself and went to the back, leaving Faye and Beatrice free to chat with each other. I think he wanted to make sure she'd be here at the bakery all day so that he could prepare a romantic ambience at the cottage, Beatrice suggested. I couldn't be more excited or happier for them. I feel like it's me that he's going to ask. Faye giggled girlishly. Are we sure that she'll say yes? Beatrice wondered. No, but she probably will, Faye stated confidently. That's what the American teddy bear king thought too, according to the tabloids, Beatrice reported. Ooh, why can't he get here already? Faye said impatiently. He'll be here, he'll be here. He just wants everything to be exactly perfect for them. We just have to wait and keep her here as long as possible until we get the text, Beatrice responded. Oh, she's coming out. Shh, be quiet and act normal, Faye ordered. It's not normal to act normal on command, Beatrice commented. You know what I mean. Faye's feathers were getting a little bit ruffled and her sensitive ego was getting bruised. You've been like this for years. All the way back to the first grade, Beatrice reminded her. What's going on, ladies? Rachel interrupted. I've never seen you two this quiet. Nothing, they both chimed in. Okay, Rachel said, with her brows in a frown, then returned to the back. See, she's suspicious now, all because you couldn't act normal in the first place. Faye mouthed her words silently. Some of us don't have a normal that we can default to, Beatrice countered, referring to her lifelong friend. Oh, you said it now, Beatrice, Faye said. I was just trying to keep things light. It's been a while. Should I call him? Beatrice wondered. Absolutely not, Faye held firm. We were told to wait and wait we will do. The two sat in silence together. Then came the buzz of the much-anticipated text. He's coming. He's coming to pick her up now. He'll be here in about 10 to 15 minutes, Beatrice announced to Faye. Does she even expect to be picked up? Faye said. She doesn't even know he's here. Now shut your pie hole and let's just nod and smile cordially until he arrives. Then it's showtime, Beatrice reiterated. Aren't you a regular, little Miss Bossy Pants? Faye stated. I'm just trying to keep up with you, dear. Rachel came back out. I'm too tired to do my best with the inventory. I'll head back to the bed and breakfast, get a good night's sleep. Then give it another try bright and early in the morning. Good night, ladies. Well, you don't have to go rushing off right away, do you? Come, sit and chat with us. You just got back. We could catch up, Beatrice offered, trying to buy more time and be charming at the same time. I'll have to pass. Sorry, ladies, but I worked a double shift and my lower back is killing me. I just want to find something to eat, take a long hot shower and go to bed, Rachel explained. They had to keep her there and keep her talking until he showed up. But she was right. She must have been tired after the nature of the trip to New York, its unexpected outcome, and the time change alone. Any normal person would be beat. Throw in a double shift on your feet and add an extra level of fatigue. Shouldn't you two be headed home yourselves? It's late and dark out, Rachel inquired. Even my night vision isn't what it used to be. I'll see you tomorrow and we'll talk more then. Exasperated and about to admit defeat, Arthur appeared at the shop door with a finger over his lips, wanting them to be quiet so he could surprise Rachel, who had her back facing the front door. He walked in and was announced by the door's jingle bells before he ever had the opportunity to sneak up on Rachel from behind. As she was turning around to see who came in after closing, Arthur boomed, "Don't I get a kiss, Miss Lady?" With her eyes already filled with tears, Rachel ran over to him and hugged him. He pulled her in for a kiss and then remembered that his grandma and godmother were sitting among them, so he stepped back and switched his fantasy greeting from an adults-only rating for one special lady to a family-friendly gentle kiss on the cheek for each of the women. "Arthur," Rachel exclaimed, "why don't we hook that bicycle onto the back of my car? And we'll drop everyone and everything off, ending with Grandma. Do you mind being my guest at the cottage tonight? I'll take the sofa in the living room if that would make you more comfortable," he asked Rachel. "That would be fantastic." Upon arriving at the cottage with Arthur, Rachel was the suspicious one this time. It was too quiet and too dark. "What's going on, Arthur?" Rachel asked. "Trust me," he promised, nervously kissing her hand. When he opened the door to the solarium, clear lights came on and she heard the music of a string quartet. She could smell food and thought she heard voices. "What's going on, Arthur?" she asked him again. They paused in the greenery and he got down on one knee. "Rachel," he said, his voice starting to quiver. "Let's build a strong, honest foundation and move forward in life together. I love you and I would be honored and happy if you would be my wife." She screamed an excited yes after he proposed, and he slipped a sizable diamond engagement ring on her left ring finger. Then he asked, "Would you marry me now if you had the chance?" "Of course," she responded, overcome with the joy of someone who had been engaged for a full minute. "Then let's do it. Right now. I think we have enough witnesses." At that very moment, all of the house lights came on, revealing Beatrice, Faye, the bakery volunteers and supporters, well-wishers from the community, huge wedding cake, and a justice of the peace. 1 minute they were recently reunited boyfriend and girlfriend, committed to love each other until they were cruelly separated by an ocean. The next they became husband and wife, promising never to be separated by anyone or anything ever